Hey everybody, just here to do a quick video on how to add or subtract fractions when the denominators are not the same, or we could also say when they are unlike. Okay, so I've got a question here that has 1/5 plus 1/4. Now remember, when you're adding or subtracting fractions, your denominators must be the same. So if they're not, you have to make them the same as each other. So you have two options. If you can find an equivalent fraction for one of them and just change one of the denominators to match the other. But if you can't do that, then you have to change both of the denominators in the question, or sometimes three of the denominators if there's another part, to match each other, okay? And that means changing both of them. So here's an example of one of these questions. We've got 1/5 plus 1/4. Okay, now I can't do this question yet because my denominators are unlike, but looking at these numbers, the 5 and the 4, there's not really any way that I can find an equivalent fraction for one of these to turn it into the other. So I can't really make the 4 into a 5 by dividing or timesing, and I can't really make the 5 into a 4 by timesing or dividing. So for this question, I know that I have to change both of the denominators. Okay, so in order to do that, I need to find the lowest common multiple, okay, LCM. And just to recap, a multiple is the result of numbers multiplying with each other and the answer to that question. So for example is, an example is, what are the multiples of 5? 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15, etc. So these are my multiples of 5. And my multiples of 4 I've written down here as well. What you need to do is to think of the common multiple between the denominators that you have, and using the lowest one will just make it easier. Okay, so when I write out all the multiples of 5, okay, as I've done here, or a number of them, they keep going, and all the multiples of 4, I see the one that comes up first that is matching is the 20. Okay. And for this question, that's my lowest common multiple, okay? So I'm just going to move this camera up a bit, show the rest of the page. Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to have a new denominator for my question, and it's going to be my lowest common multiple, which is 20. Okay? Now I can't keep the ones the same because I have found equivalent fractions here, and I need to do whatever I've done to the bottom half of a fraction, I always do to the top. Okay, so here I've changed the 5 by timesing it by 4 to my 20. So I'm going to change the top by doing exactly the same thing. So my fraction now becomes 4/20. Okay, down up here I've changed the 4 into my 20 by timesing it by 5. And so I'm going to do exactly the same thing to the top. Alrighty? So 5 times 1 is 5. Okay? Now that my denominators are exactly the same as each other, my 20, I'm going to just add my numerators together. So 4 plus 5. Okay? And there's my answer. Simple as, once you know how. Okay? If I could break my final fraction down into its simplest form any further, then I would do that. But for this example, 9/20 is as low as it can get. Okay? Cool.